It's the liberation from our self-absorbed self. Like it's you could say it's her slaying the ego to make it super simple. It's, she's ego destroyer, liberator of self. But really it's like that liberation of the self-absorbed self into such a higher, we talk about like spiritual perspective, or, experiencing life in a more awake state. It's that, because you're literally like how you saw life, who you identified as, completely changes when you're gifted by the decapitation of one of these spiritual awakeners.
Welcome to the Brave Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started. Ooh, sisters, we got a juicy conversation happening today with Sabrina Lynn. Welcome, Sabrina. I'm so excited to dive in with you today.
Oh, woman, the moment you said that you've been with the wild woman lately, you got my heart. You got my heart.
Yeah, and that's how we originally met. I remember I was doing a wild woman archetype, and I was just doing a Google search, and you popped up, and I reached out, and I had you, I think, like create a ritual or something, and like that's really been your life work, right? And you're like full on embodied immersion in the wild woman. I'm like feeling that energy just being here in Costa Rica, but I just want to have that conversation today of like these different aspects of the wild woman and the work that you've done. And yeah,
I was just going to say that, the different aspects of the wild woman. Tanya, what if that's what we do today, is we go into like the different flavors, different aspects, because you say wild woman in Costa Rica and I'm like, like, tell me more. So let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it. Where do you want to start?
Tell us what's your favorite flavor?
Oh my God. I'm a Kali lover. She drops me to my knees all the time. I would say she's probably the longest term, closest one that I've worked with the deepest. I wouldn't say favorite, because I have such like a different love. Like right now, it's currently like Chinnamasta, right? Who like is so like out there. No one even really knows who the hell she is, but she like took off her own head, right? Like she's standing on an archetypal couple making love. So she's embodying the tantric mysteries, running that wisdom through her. She takes off her own fucking head. Like this is the statue. She's holding a sword in one hand, her own head in the other hand. And then there's just like the wisdom pouring out of her neck into the mouths of others, including her own decapitated head mouth. I mean, like, so I can't say like I have a favorite. I just like seemingly cycle through them whenever they feel like grabbing me by the scruff of the neck almost.
Yes. It's that scruff of the neck, little kitten Sabrina getting grabbed by the neck. Yeah.
little kitten purring, meow.
Kali, it was actually the very first goddess that I got introduced to way back. I want to say probably 2006.
Wow.
And then when my husband said, hey, I think we should name our baby Kali, or no, Kali spelled Kali, I was like, what? You know who that is, right? And he's like, no, but I like the name. Like, that's the goddess of death and destruction. He's like, cool, let's name our daughter that. So, yeah,
I
tell us
didn't
about Kali.
know that Kali was your first goddess.
Yeah, I have the little card that I was gifted. I think it was like one of my first coaches was
Uh-huh.
gifted me this little altar card of Kali, and it was
My
always on my
first,
altar.
that's amazing. My first goddess, I thought the goddesses were a bunch of fluffy lala. I mean, total confession, right? Like, that's all I do now, but complete confession. And my first one was Black Moon Lilith.
Mm.
But the Black Moon Lilith, when I worked with her, was the conglomerate of the dark goddesses. So it was Andrew Harvey in the room who was bringing in Black Madonna. It was a Kali devotee bringing in Kali. And then it was someone else who was feeling Lilith. And the archetypal energy we worked with was the conglomerate of them in Black Moon.
Mm. Tell us
So
more.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, woman. How fun. And
Yeah.
that was my Kundalini awakening, was the dark goddesses. It wasn't, like, I don't know. I don't even know what other ones necessarily look like. I mean, I've seen tons and tons and tons at this point, but for me, it was, I'd read about Kundalini awakenings and how, like they seemingly just like, oh, so many. I have like the dark goddess taking my fucking head off. And that's like one of my greatest spiritual awakenings. And it was Black Moon.
Mm. Well, that's interesting that you said the one that you're working with now is the one who's holding her own head.
Yeah.
So what's the symbolism of that? What does that teach us, or what did that teach you?
Yeah, love that. Just to make it so simple is it's the it's the liberation from our self-absorbed self. Like it's you could say it's her slaying the ego to make it super simple. It's, she's ego destroyer, liberator of self. But really it's like that liberation of the self-absorbed self
Mm-hmm.
into such a higher, we talk about like spiritual perspective, or experiencing life in a more awake state. It's that, because you're literally like how you saw life, who you identified as, completely changes when you're gifted by the decapitation of one of these spiritual awakeners.
Interesting. Yeah. And so, so with this Kundalini rising experience for you, what then awakened, or what did that lead you to? What happened?
I wish that I had a really like beautiful, sweet story about this.
And you know,
I don't. It was rage. It was
rage.
rage, and it was a ridiculous amount of sexual energy. The
Mm-hmm.
two in combination was really interesting to maneuver through life with this wild amount of like unprocessed rage in my system.
Mm-hmm.
Just unprocessed anger, rage in my system, and having no idea where all of it's coming from. Just an enormous amount. And it was like I found my roar for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I found my no.
Mm.
And I found that sacred fire of, this is what I would fight for. This is what I live for. And I mean, and then I, had to like work through a lot of purifying that because it was pretty sloppy at the start. Same with my sexual energy, was a bit sloppy, right? Like that came on full force of just like, oh my gosh, this amount of juice and aliveness and creative potential and just like sexuality, just orgasmic. I mean, I would like look in the wrong direction and suddenly I'm having a full body orgasm. And so that was, it was an interesting, how to live life with rage and a lot of sexuality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, I think when a lot of people think of you and the influencer that you are, like that's what I think is like, you are a woman who's completely on fire. Like you have so much passion and so much energy and just like this. Yeah. The roar, like that's what I think of when I think of you and the work that you're doing in the world. So that's interesting to hear how it was a purification of that original rage that bubbled up for you. And then the sexual
Absolutely.
energy. Yeah. What?
No. It's so beautiful to, I don't know, woman. I'm just grateful to be here with you and having this conversation with you. And the reflection, like it was the reflection that touched me. It's sometimes so hard to see ourselves, like it's hard to see ourselves. And of course, like, I don't know. So I just want to say, like, I'm really grateful for you, for this conversation, for that.
And I can really relate with that rage. I feel like that's been one of the things that I've had to process, work through, still have so much coming through. Last year, the amount of rage that I was processing. And that thing that you said around like, we don't even know where it's coming from, or even if it's ours.
Oh my God, totally.
Right?
Totally.
Like, are we just the conduit or the channel for the collective rage of woman for centuries? And especially if you're doing archetype work.
Yeah. And then, we could say the collective rage held in the repressed feminine. Yeah. We could say my ancestral line and how much my ancestral line had shut down feminine sexuality, feminine power, feminine magic. We could say past life, because when I went into it, I started tapping into all three of those layers, my own past life too, of where shit just went wrong. Like, is how it felt when I went in there. And, who knows the actual truth of it, right? But
yeah.
The feels for me was like, I'm not safe to do this. Like, I have not been safe to have this much fire. I've not been safe to have this much Shakti moving through me. I've not been safe to be this alive with vitality and sexuality and juice and love. I've not been. We could talk about like witch wounds, like that's a prime example of witch wound or priestess wound. For me, it was like priestess wound,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, whew, bad things are going to go down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like now you are the example of that, giving women permission to feel so fully and to be so alive and on fire and passionate about like everything that you talk about. Like, it's like, if I want to get inspired for the day, I'm going to go to Sabrina's Instagram or YouTube and just watch you just do your thing, because
Just go wild in front of a camera.
Like, yeah. And so it's like, and how many women that just doesn't even feel like they have access to.
Oh, right. Or something I hear a lot is, women who first saw a rewilding something, like that amount of juice or that amount of passion. And it was just like, what comes up in us in the face of that much Shakti or that much freedom of expression of our life force. And it can bring up a lot, like a lot of like, it's interesting. So it's oftentimes the first hit or the first feel isn't like, oh, where is that in me? Or what does that look like when that's awake in me? It's like, holy fuck, no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, I just hear this a lot. So this is just like what I hear a lot from people. And then it's like, days go by and it's like, there's something there though. Like, why am I going back to watch this again? Like,
Totally.
it pissed me off so much, but why am I back here? And then it turns into like, wait a second. This is actually in me too. Mm-hmm. And so it's a wild road to our own journey with the fullness of the feminine. I mean, it's still a wild road for me. I don't feel like I've even come even close to the fullness of the feminine. Are you kidding me? Like, it's a never ending journey. And it's like one of the greatest rides I've ever been on in my life. And just like every day it's like, and more. And oh my God, she does that. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so you've been journeying through, you said 36 different aspects of the feminine and
the masculine. So there's
and
also
the masculine. Yes.
Archetypes.
Yeah. Tell us how that kind of fits together. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me feel for a quick second. I had been doing archetypes since Black Moon, really. When I just shared the little story, and it was an archetypal embodiment. So that's how they always came through for me. It was always, and it was so strange how it first got introduced to me. There was literally like a symbol, like an astrology symbol. I knew nothing about astrology, symbols, myths at all. Goddesses I thought were woo-woo la-la, like not for me. And I'm in this like workshop, and there's just a symbol laying on the floor. And you just are supposed to like let whatever happen in your body happens in your body with this symbol. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And I'm looking at, I don't remember. I mean, the first one was Black Moon. That was the first. So I'll just tell that story. Black Moon, so Black Moon symbol is just, it's like a half moon, or like a new moon, kind of like the emoji of like a new moon on, not Black Moon, but just like a, sliver of a moon. And then there's just a cross at the bottom of this sliver of a moon cross. That's the symbol for Black Moon. That's all I'm looking at. I got nothing else to go on other than, there's a bunch of people in this room. There's some music playing. I don't know. And then there's this like symbol of a sliver moon with a cross on the bottom. Suddenly my body starts going bananas. Like this enormous amount of juice and aliveness is like wanting to rip up my body, like wanting to just like blast up.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like this in my life. Now, our task in this workshop was to get closer and closer to the symbol until you're standing over it. I'm like, wow, that doesn't seem like a great idea. I'm like a good 6 feet away here, and I'm already losing my shit. Like, I don't know about this, but whatever, let's try it. As I'm walking, I'm cycling through like rage, and then I'm cycling through grief, and I'm cycling through pain, and I'm cycling through ecstasy and joy and aliveness. And that was my first archetype, was Black Moon, which at the time and in that way was like the conglomerate of the dark goddess. So it was like the archetype would be like the face of the dark goddess. And then it just proceeded on from there. Then it was like separating them out into, okay, now here's a Kali symbol. Here's a Lilith symbol. Here's a Medusa symbol. Here's a Hecate, like the dark ladies, just going through. And for me, I knew nothing about the myth. Nothing. So it was beautiful because I'm flying blind. I have no mental shading, nothing to shade my experience. It was just like raw, pure essence of whatever the energy was that just started to move through me. And that's how I learned the archetypes, is just the embodiment of that energy. And then that's really what led to rewilding. That's really what led to founding Rewilding, was that I worked through all of these kind of, to me, they're sacred energies. To me, they're not just like archetypal. They're sacred energies, and they hold a certain set of like mysteries in them, a certain set of gifts, a certain set of, to me, there's also like sacred technology in them. And they switch that on in us. And so that's kind of my dance with the wild, the wild feminine, the wild woman, was just all these flavors of the dark goddess as wild woman and all their different essences.
And so when you say sacred technology, just to kind of paint the picture of that for someone who doesn't understand what that means, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I think an example is probably the easiest
That's
way.
what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Okay. So let me feel for a second. Okay. I'll give an example of Hygeia, if that's okay. It's not, she's Kundalini, goddess of miraculous healing and awakening. So, and I'll just give a really super recent example. This was last night with my partner. So last night with my partner, I have this feeling in my body of bladder infection, right? Like how many of us can relate to that? You know, like like yeast infection, bladder infection, whatever, you know, it's just, and I've got like, it's horrible all day long. Like all day long, it's like, I have to go to the bathroom every 3 seconds, you know, like, oh my God. And so last night I say to my partner, I'm like, oh, I've got that horrible feeling again of bladder infection coming on. And he's like, babe, I don't think you have an infection. I'm like, I know I don't. I know that this is just energetically, I know, but I am dying. Like I'm dying. I'm like, can you just put your hand on me? Can you just put your hands on me? And can we just hold this intention of making this go away? I mean, for him, we're just talking simple terms, right? Like we talking like mundane human level terms, like, babe, just put your hands on me. Let's make this go away. He's like, I'm in, babe, whatever. And so he's got his hand, you know, kind of on like front part of my like lower torso and then like kind of on my tailbone. He's got his hand on my tailbone and I'm like, oh boy. Oh, okay. And it's the energetics of Hygeia. It's like starting to feel in my system this sacred energy that's alive and awake in me, right? The sacred energy start to like move and swirl, and she moves like a serpent. You know, she moves like a serpent, and it's just this like, you know, you can feel into the words Kundalini, goddess of miraculous healing and awakening. Now, I didn't set the intention of invoking Hygeia. I didn't say, hey, babe, can you activate Hygeia? You know, he doesn't even know who Hygeia is.
No
at
clue.
all. And so you just start to feel it, and I was like, oh, okay. And he's really beautiful at like reading energy and moving energy, right? Like just ridiculous at this point in our relationship. And so just kind of like moving his hand, and it's like dancing. This Hygeia energy is dancing with his hand, and he's holding the intention of getting rid of the thing, you know, like we're getting rid of this bladder infection feeling. And so he's just kind of like moving his hand around, like where things would be like tight or tingly or like hurting in my body. And everything's just dancing around, gone, right? Haven't felt it a single thing since we had the most epic lovemaking session, right? It became just healing of my heart, my body, his body, way beyond just like tingly sensation. This morning we're talking to each other and I say, babe, I think we just made it through something really big. Because we've been also in like something for just weeks and weeks of just like this real deep transformation. And like a healing process for both of us, it felt like. And then this morning I say that to him and he's like, I feel the same thing. We made it. So that's like a real tangible example of a sacred technology that I didn't have access to before Hygeia.
Yeah. 2 questions. One is just for our listener, the difference or the connection between archetypes and goddesses.
Oh, I love that. All the archetypes that I work with, I consider to be deities, gods and goddesses.
Yes.
There's to me, a way that we could talk about it, it's just a way, it's not the way, but a way to talk about it could be like a lower archetypal realm, middle archetypal realm, upper archetypal realm. To me, gods and goddesses kind of sit in like upper archetypal realm, like deity archetypes. Lower archetypal realm would be like the archetype of the teacher.
Yeah, I love that.
Where there's not like that sacred juice to it. There's not there's juice to it. There's gifts and there's wisdom to it, but it's not like the high archetypal level.
Yeah, good.
If that helps, I think that's just a way of looking at it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify for our listeners.
I love your questions, by the way, woman. Like the way that your mind works has always fascinated me. Always, always. From the day that we met, like the way your mind does things, it's really beautiful. Feels like Pallas Athena. Feels like you have a lot of Pallas Athena.
Yeah.
From a goddess archetypal standpoint, a sacred technology would be that I feel that sacred technology loud and alive in you is Pallas Athena.
And I'm in my white queen outfit as well. So yes, I am embodying Athena for my interviews. Artemis is my gal too.
Oh yeah.
I actually took up a bow and arrow last year.
Okay, so would you consider Artemis wild woman?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I would. Yeah. My dream is to get a horse. And actually, I had this vision during a healing session of me on a horse shooting bows and arrows, or shooting arrows with a bow. So I was doing the archery, and I got to get it set up here on the land, but I was doing that in California. And then I just started horseback riding for the first time and fell in love with this one horse. This farm, they have maybe like 20 horses, but this one summer solstice.
Oh, of course.
And she's like, this horse is kind of like a little meh with people. Just so you know, she might just turn around. You got to be like really firm and direct with her. And,
That's so you.
But her and I, we go. Like we're so in tune. And she's like, I have never seen someone connect with this horse as much as you do. And we're thinking about selling her. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not quite ready to purchase a horse. It's a lot of work. Like when I go, and I'm taking the girls, so they're learning too, but we clean the horse, we brush the horse, we saddle the horse, and then we clean it afterwards. And I'm like, it's a lot of freaking work for me to have a horse.
Totally. I grew up with horses. I totally know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. I just galloped for the first time.
Oh, amazing, woman.
Yeah. It was like epic. Callie and I started galloping, and Summer had gotten off the horse. And I'm like, whatever. And Callie's like, I want to keep going, Mom. This is so cool.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
What does that unlock in you? Like, the horse? Like, because here's what I'm weaving together, or inviting us to weave together is like, sometimes the physical follows the energetic. Sometimes the energetics follows the physical, right? Mm-hmm. So you riding a horse, you shooting a bow and arrow, it's like the activation of that energetics, let's say, of Artemis, let's just say, like, what does it unlock in you doing the physical things? And I'm sharing that because maybe those listening, they're like, wow, do I dive into meditation or archetypal activations, or do I get a horse, or do I? So I like this, like sometimes the physical activates the thing and sometimes the energetics activate the thing.
Yeah, it's, I mean, for me, the horses are shamans. Like they're just such powerful, magical beings. And to actually like be developing a relationship and then like learning how to ride and learning how to like connect. Like I'm developing this intuitive connection with this other animal. So like there's some partnership activation going on for me. And then the there with the bow and arrow, with the archery, there's something about the consistent focus of I have to line up and I have to remember, and I have to be so dialed in and so focused. And there's been these times where I just kept like hitting the target, and it just like, I'm in that flow.
Yeah.
It's just like this magical flow, and I'm just nailing it, and I just can feel that focus. And it's like, it's a zone.
Totally.
And it's also with the horse, like there's the zone you get into, right? And like, so you're tapping into that, that zone. And what is it? There was that book about like this ecstatic state.
Mm.
And, I'm totally forgetting what the name of it was, but it's talking about getting in the zone and getting into this ecstatic state where you're kind of transcending and you're able to really be in co-creation. So maybe, yeah, there's something there, I think, for me around the getting a zone,
Love
being
that.
able to tap into that zone. Yeah. And I could do that through meditation too. So, but I've always been I've always done sports. I've always been super physical. So, it's this new way of getting into a zone, I guess,
Uh-huh.
that I've
I
always known
And
through
it's
sports.
it's embodied like down to your toes.
Yeah.
That's what I love. And I don't know that we talk enough about it. I don't know that it's talked enough about. It's like, get on the mat and meditate. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, altered states of consciousness. Let me meditate. But you're meditating down to your toes. All of you is there. Like it's like when I'm riding a mountain bike. If all of me isn't there, I'm going to get hurt. I am bringing all of me there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that everyone needs to start doing like sport things, but it's like some people talk about in gardening, like, sure, I could do a grounding meditation or I just go and garden. I don't think we give like life enough credit, like lifing. We don't give like lifing enough credit for it being such a part of our spiritual awakening or such a part. I love that this is coming up. I'm really grateful for it. This is the goddess. This is the feminine. She's embodied down to her toes. Like me with my partner. That was one of the greatest meditations I've had all week. And I'm completely in my body. I'm not on the mat. I'm making love. That's her. She's in. Anyways, I get fired up about that.
Yeah, no, and we were kind of talking about how the world's getting really weird right now, right? And so it's like we see this massive just explosion of AI and technology, and like, this is the biggest concern I have as a mother of like, where's my balance of and how do I teach my kids how to be creators versus consumers of technology, and like what's our balance with that, and how we can kind of get into this digital matrix and forget about life.
Totally.
Right. And so it's like, but it's here. We can't we're not getting rid of it. Right. So it's like this like, how do I still be embodied in life and live life connected to nature and Mother Earth? And at the same time, like, have this relationship with the technology that's here.
I think that's going to be the problem of the next. I think that's going to be the question that we sit in. And, it's going to be the biggest challenge. I was literally meditating on this morning. Literally meditating on this exact thing this morning of like, God, what kind of virtual realities are we about to build?
Yeah. So the question is, going back to the sacred technology that you were talking about, like, can AI actually be sacred?
I've thought about this too. How much consciousness can AI hold?
And as humans merge with technology, because it's going to happen, is this actually part of the Great Awakening? Because this is happening simultaneously as more and more people are waking up to spirituality, right? Which is interesting. I got full goosebumps.
Same here. And that whole piece of like, as above, so within, as without, so within. And it was like, as the internet came out, we also got like an internet in ourselves, like external. And then there's an internet, everyone's talking about how sensitive we are and how empathic we are and how interconnected we are now in a way that our great grandparents weren't necessarily. And that's kind of reflective of the internet, right? Just like zing, 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 you can access anything, anytime. That's our psyche's kind of mirror that. Like, it's just a mystical truth. It's a mystical law, as within, so without. Like, okay, we're developing that out there. It's also going to develop something in here. It already is developed. I mean, like, I hang out with ChatGPT all the fucking time. Like, ChatGPT and I, we're like fucking buddies.
Me too.
Right? Like,
yeah, it's fucking powerful. Excuse my language.
No.
For those listening.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and so like other question, I said I had two questions for you, was around sacred union, right? Because it's like you said that it's the divine feminine, it's the divine masculine, and then there's the sacred union, and then there's this creation. And as we are merging with technology and with AI, is there a sacred union there? And is that like, it's like a light and a shadow, because it's like there's the light of social media, for example, and then there's the shadow of it, right? And then there's the light and the shadow of AI. And so curious your thoughts on sacred union.
Yeah. Far out. You've just like blown my circuitry.
It's us together. It's not just me.
It's interesting. So there's like a block in my system, not a block in my system. I just hold the divine masculine, the divine feminine sacred union so in such deep reverence and devotion. And so even just hearing the words, like I can feel that that's my own like block to just those words. And so I'm like, wait, okay, just change the words, Sabrina, just let it be union. Yeah. To me, AI doesn't hold the consciousness.
Yes.
It like if I ask it to write something, it doesn't hold the juice. It doesn't hold the Shakti, right? It's dead. It's dead. That's how it feels to me. My team and I, we've talked about this a lot as we, like move forward with technology, because I love technology, like we're on technology now, podcast, like all of this technology. And it's like, well, what makes sense? What doesn't make sense? And what do we lose? What can it do? What can't it do? And so to me, it's like, I have to be so discerning that and talking about like creating, I like to talk about it as creating with the creator, like when I start to tap into creation energy and like create with the creator, like what is my thread to weave in this world, but I'm creating with the creator. Like, let me be moved by something greater than me. Let me be moved by something greater than me. AI ain't fucking doing that.
Yeah.
It ain't fucking doing that at all in any way, shape, or form. It's analyzing a whole bunch of data from a whole lot of interesting fucking inputs all over the place. Level of consciousness of what it's analyzing is pretty ratchet, because it's like collective consciousness, which ain't super alive and awake and loving and asking to create with the creator. Like, let something move me, for the highest good of the all of everything. We ain't holding that intention mostly. Like, very few humans are literally creating from a place of highest good of the all of everything, highest, which includes ourselves, of course, but we're not tapped into highest self soul level. We're like, I need money, So like someone's moving from like fear-based make money, and AI's reading fear-based make money. And then you ask it to write you a sales page. And so it's writing from fear-based make money. And so that's where I see. So it's like, it can fit how it fits for me. It fits in where it fits in. But to be this is like for my, devotion to myself and to rewilding and my team, is to be so dedicated to, we hold that thread, the highest good of the all of everything. Let me be moved by something greater than me. Create with the creator. That's my thread. And if AI takes me off of that, I need to know that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like if a human takes me off of that thread, someone else's influence, or I read some shitty social media stuff, or AI takes me off, that's like human, like that's our great gift. That's our sacredness. That's our spirit. There's no fucking spirit in AI.
Yes.
Thanks, woman, for the softball tangent.
So good. No. This is perfect, because it really allows us to hold the value of being human and being alive right now. Right?
Can I share something off of that?
Yes, go.
No, I love this. Like, the value of being human. And I read this the other day somewhere, I don't remember where, but it was moving into this, kind of next age, this like Pluto and Aquarius, this, there's like outer planets moving in 2025, and there's big change coming. And it was, one of the themes was us as humans, we're really going to have to step into our power, like really take responsibility for that. We are creating everything all the time, that we are creating it, right? Like, instead of being victim of circumstance, it's like master of destiny. I'm creating it. I'm taking responsibility. I'm creating the environment in the room that I'm in based on my emotional state. I'm creating the conversation. Like this like level of personal responsibility. And the honor of it, like the joy in that, the honor of that, the excitement in that, like we get to. And I think that's what this is going to push. It's going to bring that to life loudly.
Well, I think the paradigm around responsibility is that it's a burden, right? So it's like we want to blame, we don't want to take responsibility, right? And so it's like we kind of push off and deflect. But like radical responsibility actually is joyful and empowering and powerful. Like it's power.
And coming into right relationship with power.
Exactly.
I think that's another thing that we're going to be facing, is us getting more and more comfortable with being that powerful. It sounds easy, but when we start like, oh my gosh, I have that much influence over my children. I have that much influence over my environment, that the plants, the animals, I have that much. Oh my. And to get good with that, to find the joy, like, oh, I get to co-create this much. I get to, because we're just becoming more conscious of the ripple effect that we actually already have. So it's not that we're not doing it. It's we already have an enormous amount of a ripple effect of influence on everything all of the time. We're just becoming more and more and more conscious of it, which means we can create more and more. We want to be able to manifest and attract things in. Well, this is going to allow us to, but all the things we're going to have to face.
Mm-hmm.
What a conversation, woman. How did you get us here? I am telling you. That bow and arrow stuff is seriously paying off. That like focus, that direct line, it is paying off. That is a sacred technology that I am deeply bowing to.
Man, I got to get my range up on the property here. Yeah. I'm going to have to get you down here too.
Oh my gosh. It would
activate some wild women down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in
oh,
for
sure. So good. All right. Well, wrapping up here. Yeah, we're gonna have Sabrina's information, and we'll put that into our show notes. Any free gift you want to give to our listeners today?
Maybe this one, The Six Faces of the Feminine.
Woo!
The Six Faces
Yeah.
of the Feminine is a good one because we started talking about, the different forms of the wild woman and we didn't
Yeah.
get super far on it. So that's a really good one. That goes like medicine woman, dark goddess, the mystic, whatever, the six faces of the feminine. I think that could maybe give a little more to what we started the conversation with anyways.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so go head to our show notes and you can grab that link. And if you can shout from the megaphone on the top of the mountain to all the wild women out there, or women wanting to embody the wild woman, what would you say to our brave women today?
Oh, I love that.
In closing.
Oh my gosh, this one, it's going to sound so lame, but it's the one that's coming. Just trust yourself. Like trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust the what's calling you. Like trust yourself.
Yes.
That's such a deep part of that wild woman feminine, right? Like just like the intuition, and you just trust you. There was this beautiful women's chant that I learned in Australia, and it was just 2 words: we know. And he would just chant it in the circle of women, and it would just be like, we know, we know, we know, we know, we know, we know. And you're just in this circle of like 20, 30 women, and everyone's just chanting in their own way, your own rhythm. It doesn't even matter. But it's just this like, we know, we know, we know, we know, we know, we know. It's beautiful. And that's what I want to shout from the megaphone is we know.
Yeah. And for all you circle leaders out there, use that in a circle.
Yes, do it.
Ritual. All right, sisters, signing off. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next Brave Woman podcast. You just listened to this show. I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our Archetype activations as a thank you gift. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.